Welcome to my channel. In this video, I will be explaining about cold working of metals. Cold working of metals is also known as cold forming or cold deformation of metals. In cold working of metals, the deformation is done at room temperature or at an elevated temperature. The elevated temperature is usually below the recrystallization temperature of that metal. So in cold working, we heat the metal to a elevated temperature, slightly elevated temperature, or we don't heat the metal at all. So we have to apply more force to deform the raw metal. So this process is employed to enhance the mechanical properties, improve dimensional accuracy, and produce complex shapes in metals. Many cold working are used in industry. Such cold working are cold forging, cold extrusion, and cold rolling. Rolling or cold rolling. In cold rolling, metal sheets or bars are passed through rollers to reduce thickness or change the cross-sectional shape. Extrusion or cold extrusion. In cold extrusion, metal is forged through a die to create a specific cross-sectional shape. In forging or specifically in cold forging, metal is shaped by localized compressive forces, often using dies. So these processes also used in hot working. These processes are used in cold working too. But we have to apply more force in cold working than hot working, because in hot working the metal is at plastic state, but in cold working the metal is at solid state. So we have to apply more force than the hot working. So if we take a metal X, this is metal X, and let's suppose the recrystallization temperature of this metal is 750 degree Celsius. So if we want to cold work this metal X, then we will do the process at room temperature, or below this temperature, This will be called cold working. So if we want to cold work this metal, specific metal X, then the temperature will be between room temperature and 750 degree Celsius. This is cold working. So let's now discuss about advantages of cold working. So cold working has too many advantages. Let's now discuss about them. In cold working, the ultimate strength and yield strength of metal increases. In cold working, also the hardness increases, but ductility decreases. In cold working, we can only do cold work which metal have ductility properties. If we cold work any metal which have ductility properties itself, then after the operation is done, the ductility will be decreases. Next is, in cold working, surface finish is improved and close tolerances can be obtained. In cold working, we heat the metal to a elevated temperature, slightly elevated temperature, or don't heat at all. So the oxidation or decarburization don't happen in this process. So the surface finish is improved and the metal is slightly heated or not heated at all, then we can handle the metal at bare hand if the metal is cold. So the metal handling process is very easy in this process. Next, ideal method for increasing hardness of metals. So this process is very ideal for increasing the hardness of metals which cannot be hardened by heat treatment. If we want to increase the hardness any metal, then we have to do cold working on that metal. But that metal must have one property, that is ductility. Next is, the surface defects are improved. There is no oxidation or decarburization, then the surface finish is obviously improved. Next is suitable for mass production and automation because of low working temperatures. So the low working temperatures, it helps to do the mass production and automation. These are the advantages of cold working. Though there are too many advantages of cold working, but there are few limitations of cold working. Let's now discuss about them. In cold working, only ductile metals can be cold work. This is the main limitations of cold working. Next is overworking of metals results in brittleness and requires annealing. If we are doing cold working on a metal and we have over cold work on a metal, then the metal will be in brittleness state and we have to require heat treatment process like annealing to improve the mechanical properties of that metal. Next is small diameter components are more suitable for cold working. So in cold working, we only deform small diameter product, not huge deformation is possible because the metal is in its solid state, not in semi-solid state like hot working. Generally, plates less than 5 mm thickness are cold worked. Last is internal stress remains in the metal unless they are removed by annealing. We are doing cold working in a metal, so the internal stress will be increased in that metal. If the internal stress is induced too much, then we have to remove this internal stress by heat treatment process like annealing. So these are the limitations of cold working. So in this video, I have discussed about cold working process, advantages of cold working and limitations of cold working. Hope this video was useful for you. Thank you for watching this video. For more updates, subscribe this channel and hit the bell icon.